If you, for some reason or other, like this video enough to actually subscribe to this channel, please be aware that I generally comment on Eastern Orthodox practice, theology, themes, social issues, and so on. So this is not my typical video, but I'm so very opinionated on it that I simply had to make it. This is just, a heads up in the case you'd like to subscribe. And you're more than welcome to, and I would appreciate it very much. Just have in mind what you have in store. Also, before I start with this video, please, there will be spoilers. And if you know about The Little Mermaid, I assume you already know the main plot. So there will be basically most, if not all of the spoilers I'm referring to are the changes from the original cartoon from '89. So have that in mind, please. So let's start this train wreck. I clearly didn't like the movie, even though, which is a shame, a lot of effort has been put into it from a lot of sides, but sadly, in my opinion, to no avail. So let's start with the elephant in the room. Chapter 1, Blackwashing. I do not like blackwashing. I do not like whitewashing. Simply, characters need to stay true to their race. It is a part of one's identity. And whoever is in charge of blackwashing clearly agrees with me, because if they did not think, because if you change the race, you clearly think it is a conscious decision, So I think that is proper. And of course, some people may say, well, whites did whitewashing back then, and okay, but it was wrong then. And also, if one thing is wrong back then, does that make the opposite thing good now? I mean, are we supposed to have, black people with white slaves just because white people practice slavery in the United States? It simply does not work that way. And I think this is one of the things that in the future people will realize as extremely problematic. And as someone has prudently said, it's always, at least today, it's always the white people that get blackwashed. It's never the reverse. You don't see biopics on Martin Luther King that have him as a white guy. So for me, that is problematic. Also, in this movie, all of King Triton's daughters are of different race. So you have black mermaids, you have Asian mermaids, you have white mermaids. Now, I'm fine with this because it actually fits with the narrative of the movie, and I'll explain why. Because in this movie, Triton and Ursula are actually siblings, not siblings in Christ, just regular siblings. And that was actually in the original draft of the cartoon, which was later dropped, but it was preserved in the musical, of the official Broadway musical of Little Mermaid. So, if you have these two beings and one is half fish and the other is half octopus, daughters being of different race isn't all really that far-fetched, So that's actually the part that I didn't mind, even though initially I was sort of shocked, but when I thought it through, I didn't mind it so much. Also, even though I disagree with the casting choice because of the race, I think that Hailey Bailey actually does a very good Ariel. Actually, I thought that alongside of Ursula, she was the most convincing performance. Also, I very rarely have notes for these videos. I actually do now, so this is going to be a long one because, again, I'm very opinionated. And I'm constantly interested, how do actually YouTubers that have long scripts actually record? Do they memorize them? That's some real dedication, because I mean, I do scripts, but I do them for the main Bible Illustrated channel, and I mean, you don't actually see me do this, which I will do, and I'm not going to apologize. Okay, so we had that. Then chapter 2, the setting. The setting has been changed. Now it's somewhere in Caribbean, and we have a sort of a more we can sort of pinpoint where it happened in time because they reference the Brazilian Empire. Now, this happening in the Caribbean wouldn't be much of an issue, except for the fact that you actually have well, European-styled monarchy on the island, and you have a black queen. Eric is her son, adopted son, so he's white, she's black. So that does not make sense. I mean, if there were some kind of rulers on the Caribbean, so simply use that or make it earlier. Now, some people say that it's not staying true to the original fairy tale, but basically none of the Disney remakes or even cartoons stay true to the original fairy tales. For example, Frozen. I'm actually glad that in the original they didn't call it the Ice Queen, because that would be the sole thing that it has in common with the original tale, the presence of an Ice Queen, so not the Ice Queen, because Elsa and the original Ice Queen are two completely different entities, So I would say that here the change setting does not work. Where it does work perfectly is, for example, in The Princess and the Frog. There you have like a complete, totally black cast, and it makes sense in context and everything. And they have a black prince, but he's from a fictional country and so on. So it sort of works. Here it's it does not. But okay, I mean, and of course some people may say, well, it's a fiction and so on. Yes, but it sort of destroys the immersion, the suspension of belief, because you actually do see some sort of identity politics pushing in, and I do not think it is an acceptable break from realism. You might as well have had tons of other things without proper explanation, simply brush it off because, well, it's a fictional story. So there's that. Now, chapter 3, the characters. The main issue with this version is that practically all characters have lost a degree or 2 degrees or 50 degrees of magic that they had from the original movie. Most of them. Ariel is fine. She's actually, she sells it. She sells seashells by the seashore. Prince Eric is, I think, weaker, and I can't really pinpoint why. Maybe somebody else can. I'm not a professional movie critic. I'm simply sharing my opinionated opinions. Ursula is pretty great, I think. Triton is okay, but all of the other characters, okay. So we have the animal supporting characters, Sebastian, Flounder, and Scuttle. And people hated the design for Scuttle, for Sebastian and Flounder, but I have to say that at least for Sebastian, he sort of grew on me, even though I'm not a fan of design, but he sort of grew on me. Flounder, no. He's simply kind of eerie looking fish, I know that they tried to use a flounder for a fish, but they could have used like some sort of a blowfish, because I think he would look more like his cartoon counterpart. Now, Scuttle is an interesting change from the original cartoon, because here he is a female, and that decision was made because like Ariel had too many like guy supporting characters, so let's make one girl. And I didn't mind that change because that character was actually, interesting, funny. It's done differently from the original, not only because of the gender, but because of simply how it's portrayed. And I liked it. I mean, it was convincing, it was funny, so I didn't mind it that much. However, other characters, for example, Grimsby, nothing. He's just, like boring master of the house type of character. There's only maybe one scene where I liked it, like when he pushes the engagement ring during the combat, when everyone attacks Ursula, that is Vanessa, and that was the only point where he was sort of interesting. He's not as expressive as the cartoon counterpart. None of the, I think, none of the actors were bad. It's just how they did things. You know, again, this is producer issue. Not this isn't on the actors. This is definitely the producer problem. Um, for Ursula, she's great, but I sort of did not buy her makeup. For some reason, the way her makeup is done is like she looks like a very good theater, like she wears this great theater makeup, but in the movie it looks very weak. It looks like a woman in purple makeup. She does not seem like a sort of being that has original purple skin. I don't know why this is. I don't know if I could. I mean, I definitely could fix it. I don't have to put makeup, definitely. But I had no idea what better could be done there. Now, Flotsam and Jetsam in this version do not speak. And while I find that an interesting decision, and there's one specific aspect of it that directly damages the movie. But one of the lesser ways it damages the movie is that you do not feel Ursula's loss for them that much because most of the time they look like this. You know that meme, the eel that cracked a joke and is expecting everybody's reaction? That's how they look throughout the entire movie. So, I mean, of course, Ursula is still hurt by the loss of her pets, but still there was no actual intellectual engagement between the three. There's a queen in the movie, as I referenced before. And she's nothing. I mean, she's there to nag, to be conservative, and to be black, while Eric is the one who wants to open the country and come in touch with other culture, you know. Simply, she provides next to nothing to the story. I had a thought that maybe it would have been interesting if she was actually a villain, in the sense that she's maybe in some sort of cahoots with Ursula, that sort of she rules the land while Ursula rules the sea, and because Ariel has went up to the surface, that now she's in the jurisdiction of the evil land queen. It just occurred to me, maybe like how to make this character more interesting than simply a hardworking but concerned royal that does not let anyone have any fun. Okay, chapter 4, the songs. Part of Your World and Under the Sea, they were pretty good, I think. However, things start taking the downward turn with The Poor Unfortunate Souls, which was still great, but they removed that whole body language section where Ursula says that girls up there, men up there don't like a lot of blabber, they think the girl who gossips is a bore, and so on. And they explain this in the sense of, well, we want to teach young girls like proper approach, but she's a villain. You know, she's directly manipulating Ariel into signing the contract, you know, in order for her to accept the price of giving up her voice. It's a completely insane decision. In the same manner that they removed from Aladdin when Jafar in the cartoon imprisons Jasmine in an hourglass, and it's a very creative use of magic, and magic suffers in this movie way more than in Aladdin. And they wanted to say like that's not how you deal with women. Well, yeah, Jafar is a villain. He can literally do anything evil because he's evil. So they simply opted for these featureless, boring energy spheres that imprison everyone. And, you know, I wanted to see that hourglass. Sorry. So, and all of the issues are here. They removed Le Poisson. Why? Because it stylistically clashes with the rest of the movie. And instead, we got a rap number called Scuttlebutt. I mean, at this point it's laughable. I mean, if they at least removed Scuttlebutt, it would at least remain consistent. We have two new songs, one sing by Eric, which is unmemorable, and one by Ariel, which is horrid. I do not know why, if they wanted to have a song sung by Eric, why didn't they simply put a song from the musical Her Voice, which is beautiful, it has beautiful lyrics, it fits impeccably with the cartoon, but for some reason or another they didn't, and you get this sorry result that you did. Also, they removed Vanessa's song when she tells of her plans, which was a very nice short number, and you know, you get an additional villain song. Here she just hums the melody to the tune, which I mean, they could have easily used it. But the slight improvement over the original is that here the humming starts with Ariel singing. Okay, I don't know how to sing, so sorry for that. But that was the slight improvement until you get to the disappointment where you see that she's not going to sing. Chapter 5, the magic. Now, in the sense of the supernatural. And magic here fails on a lot of levels. Earlier I said that Flotsam and Jetsam don't talk, and that's a problem, and you're going to see why it's a huge problem with magic. In the cartoon, after Triton destroys Ariel's grotto, Flotsam and Jetsam come and try to convince Ariel to come to Ursula, you know, and because she's so vulnerable and hurt, she follows them. However, here they never actually speak, and you're like, so how's Ursula gonna, how she's gonna be convinced to reach Ursula? And so Flotsam and Jetsam make this sort of circle, and a hologram, a projection of Ursula appears within the circle of the eels, and she convinces Ariel to come visit her, but it looks so bad. It's like Power Rangers level special effects. It's horrible. It's pretty horrible. Also, a couple of times, now Vanessa appears in a couple of scenes like in the cartoon, but for some reason or another she's shown not wearing the necklace a couple of times that contains Ariel's voice, and when she speaks, you know, with Ariel's voice, which is sort of interesting because it is a generally accepted trope that magical objects confer their blessings when they're worn. You don't become invisible and corrupted by the ring if you wear it around your neck. You're not, and so on, from all of the video games and movies. But here you need to destroy the shell in order for Vanessa to lose her voice, but she does not have to carry it around, which is for me, you know, a pity. In The Poor Unfortunate Souls, there's actually no contract. So they replaced the stanza, so now Ariel has to put a bit of her blood and her scale into the cauldron. And initially I was like, okay, fine. But then I was like, but contract is such a fun part of the movie because it is the contract that shields Ursula from destruction by Triton. It is the contract that transforms first Ariel into a polyp and then King Triton, but they simply left it out of here, and later on it causes a major issue. But I'm going to comment on the story later on and how it changes. Also, there is an addition here to the spell that Ursula casts on Ariel, which was completely redundant and stupid and silly. I have no clue what they were intending to do with it, because Ursula says that she put something extra into the cauldron, which makes Ariel actually forget that she needs to kiss the prince after 3 days. And I had a couple of issues with this. For example, what they're doing is magical contract, and that would make a contract null and void. You know, basically you did not agree to its terms and conditions, and it's again a magical trope. You know what you're getting, you know what you're giving, and okay, someone might manipulate you into the wrong stipulation, but not so much as in actually to tamper with the contract so much that you actually forget about a very important clause. And an additional silly thing is that Sebastian figures out the split second they talk afterwards. Sebastian figures out that she forgot about the kiss, and he concludes immediately that this is clearly Ursula's spell, which is stupid and idiotic, but whatever. I mean, I don't know what was the whole point of that. If somebody knows, please let me. Also, I had a huge issue with the aesthetics of magic in this movie, which was done so creatively in the original cartoon. And again, there is no lack of creativity here. Like the sea can be very beautiful, but magic, it was lost cause. The first thing that indicated that was when Ursula is about to drain Ariel's voice, and in the cartoon you have this amazingly spooky rendition of these green claws that take Ariel's voice. Here you have these just black tendrils of black smoke, and this black smoke is always used for Ursula's magic, and it loses a lot of its, impact, because when she transforms into Vanessa, she's simply covered with a dark cloud. When she transforms from Vanessa to Ursula, she's simply, dark cloud covers her, and in the final battle, she's covered in, again, that dark cloud. But it's not done as in the cartoon, where again there's a black cloud when she transforms into Giant Ursula, but you have these black clouds that cover Sebastian and Flounder, and you can see that they're absolutely terrified. There's no such thing here. Well, whereas in the original, when Ursula transforms into Vanessa, you hear her cackling like completely insane as her voice morphs from Ursula's to Ariel's. Then when she transforms from Vanessa to Ursula, she bursts from that wedding dress with lightning bolts, and it looks so good here. It's, I was waiting for that wedding reception. Here it is an engagement party, and it was so underwhelming. Chapter 6, the story. There are a couple of changes that are simply idiotic. For example, in the cartoon, Ariel is found on the shore by Eric, and in that context, it makes sense why he takes her to the palace, because he's certain that she's the girl who saved him. But here, Ariel is found by a completely random fisherman, and for some reason, she's immediately taken to the palace right before the prince. I mean, when I play Dungeons and Dragons and my players tell me we go and see the king, and they say fine, you go and see the king, but that's my stupid Dungeons and Dragons campaign. It's not a blockbuster movie, Does every victim of shipwreck get the royal treatment here? I mean, it's so idiotic. Isn't there like a city administration there, a welfare society, a church, a family that is willing to take her in for the time? It makes no sense. Also, I mentioned the lack of contract, in the sense of like a physical parchment. There is a contract. However, here you're not transformed into a polyp like you're in the cartoon. Here, Ursula simply kills you, and initially it looks creepy, because while there are some polypy creatures, there are also merman skeletons all around, which makes a very creepy visual, and you sort of see that Ursula is maybe a tad more dangerous than in the cartoon. However, that means, and it does happen, that Ursula kills Triton. Like, she sends her eels and they electrify Triton, and you're like, how are they going to bring back Triton? Because in the cartoon it makes sense. Okay, he's enchanted, but once Ursula dies and spells get broken, again a trope in fantasy, that when the wizard dies, his spells start to fail, sometimes immediately, sometimes over time, and it's a trope that is sort of recognizable. It's not as universally used, but people like a good dead wizard spells gone trope, I like how they called it on TV tropes, which is no ontological inertia or something like that. Here, it's beyond stupid. Like, they kill Ursula, and Ariel takes the trident, and she goes to the edge of the precipice where Triton's body fell, and he comes back to life. No explanation given whatsoever. I mean, it's implied that it was due to the trident, and he says to Ariel something along the lines of, "You risked your life to save me." No, she didn't. She didn't know that the trident will bring her back to life. And also, there's a glaring plot hole, because the reason why Triton hates men so much is because they killed his wife. Bring her back to life with that trident. I mean, what's the problem? Unless she was made into sushi by that chef who was also omitted from the movie. The ending scene is a total mess. You see that Ariel and Eric got married, but it's all over the place, and you actually have to see it just how poorly it's designed as opposed to the cartoon. Chapter 7, Girl Bossery. I have to thank my friend Alfred for this, because this is something I haven't noticed. Ariel is much more proactive here when fighting the villain. In the case you didn't know, Ariel is the first Disney princess who actually assaulted the villain. In the cartoon version, she pulls Ursula's hair as she's about to blast Eric with the trident. Here, things are a bit different. During the wedding perception, it's not animals who cause much of a stir. I mean, they do, but they're not the primary. Ariel simply barges in. She starts a real, cat fight with Vanessa, and during that fight, she breaks her shell necklace, and she reveals Vanessa for who she is, and that isn't much of an issue. I mean, they clearly wanted to emphasize that Ariel isn't a pushback, which is fine. But the interesting thing here is that Ariel kills Ursula, It's exactly the same as in cartoon, except that the places are reversed. Eric is stranded on the rock, whereas Ariel climbs the top of a ship while still a mermaid, so she's like, squabbling around, waddling. And then she takes the steering wheel and rams the bow of the ship into Ursula. And initially I was like, okay, sure, right now. Right, I mean, these live-action remakes like to reverse things, like it's Maleficent's kiss that wakes Ariel and so on. And of course, there's a feminist side to it too. But as Alfred remarked well, in the original cartoon, you actually have balance. Ariel saves Eric's life by blasting Flotsam and Jetsam, by, pulling Ursula's hair. And later on, Eric saves her by piercing Ursula. Here, it's just Ariel all of the time. So I think that was completely silly, and it actually does disturb the balance that the original. Chapter 8, Religion. Okay, I'm a religious channel, so I might as well reference it. It's there, but it's sort of confused, because simultaneously Triton is referred to as sea god, but also it's clear that people are Christian, because when that fisherman finds Ariel, he actually says, "Santa Maria, Lord have mercy." He says it like that. So I think that was sort of nice. However, because we never actually see a wedding. We see Ariel and Eric as they're wed, and that wedding between Vanessa and Eric is actually turned into an engagement party. So there's that. Maybe they didn't want to include the visuals. Maybe they didn't care. Who knows? I don't know. But I think that there should have been a nice church wedding, which is sort of implied to have happened here, but... And now, the final chapter, 9, Magic. But here, I want to talk about what made the original cartoon so beautiful, and all of it simply lacks here. the movie is essentially bloodless. That is its biggest crime. I think it horribly lacks in creativity in the sense of what they could have done. It looks very nice to the eyes. That's nice, but simply watch the scenes of how Triton turns Ariel into a human, how she leaves the sea with that beautiful dress, that Ursula's body language, and so, which is of course omitted. The whole contract thing, which was so creatively used in the cartoon, there's nothing of it here. There's also a scene which I found, I think, the biggest example of why these remakes, at least in the way they are made now, shouldn't be made. It's the final verse of the Part of Your World when Ariel is standing on that rock and says "Part of your world," and as she does, there's a huge wave behind her in slow motion, and it looks beautiful. And here it's like "Part of your," and that's it. The cartoon version is expectations, and the real the movie version is reality. It suffers from pretty much the same problems, but not as much as The Lion King, where instead of it's okay to take a break from reality if that break will make the movie more beautiful, and they skip all of the chances at that. So that's all I've had to say. So see ya.